Alright, these notes for Module 1C. They're very similar to the notes that are standard in the MyLabs Plus program, but I've tweaked them a little bit to try to help you out with get a little better knowledge of all this stuff. But they are very similar. The first one's vocabulary, and this one's a pretty simple one. It's going to be a mixed number, number is a number that represents the sum of a fraction, like 3 1/2. That's what a mixed number is. To change a mixed number to a fraction notation or improper fraction notation, you multiply the whole number by the denominator. Then you add the result to the numerator, and then as you keep the denominator the same. That does not change in this. And we're going to do a couple of these. The most common way to do this is you do it's going to be 5 times 4 plus the numerator. So we multiply first, then we add. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 plus 2 is 22 over 5. 3 3/7. 7 times 3 is 21. 21 plus 3 is 24. So it's 24 over 7. Now, 17 times 12 is not one you may have memorized, but you do have a multiplication chart that does have this on there. 17 times 12 is 204. 204 plus 3 is 207 over 17. Please use your multiplication charts for this section and for this next section. Very, very huge helper. So here I go 4 into 45. We have to do long division. If I look on my multiplication chart, 4 goes into 45. 44 is the closest one without going over, and that happens to be 11 times. So I subtract, so it's 11 1/4. And again, we're going to do 16 into 445. Now this is actually off the chart. It's too big of a number. So I got to break it down into steps. I got how many times is 16 just going to 44? Well, I can go 32. And then the next one's 48, which is too high, and that's 2 times. Then I subtract. 4 minus 2 is 2. 4 minus 3 is 1. I bring down the 5. How many times is 16 going to 125? I go across the 16 on the multiplication chart. 112 is the highest one. That's still underneath 125. And if you look up, that's 7 times. I subtract, and I have 13 left over. So it's 13 over 16. And again, this one unfortunately is off the charts here, but again, I can just break it into steps. If I look at 22, I go straight across. 44 is the highest. Now, the next one's 66, but 66 is over, so I have to do 44, so that's 2. Then I subtract, then I bring down the 3, and I got still a giant number. 29, and then that's 198. I got to do some borrowing here. Can't do 3 minus 8, so that's now a 0, and that's a 1. 13 minus 8 is 5. Can't do 0 minus 9, so I got to borrow that. So that's 10 minus 9 is 1. So it's 15 over 22. You're just going to have to take your time and practice those. Long division sometimes can get pretty ugly, but please use the chart. To add and subtract mixed numbers. The first thing we always want to do is add and subtract the fractions. And then if possible, sometimes you will have to simplify the fraction part. And sometimes you won't. So we just have to make that decision when we get there. Now, whenever I do these questions, especially adding, subtracting, I always do vertically. So I would do 5 3/5 plus 1 1/4. Now, you got to find a common denominator here. And when I look at this, 5 and 4 have no common factors at all. So 4 times 5 is 20. So 20 will be my common denominator. Now what I got to do is 4 times what is 20? Well, it's times 5 times 5. Now 5 times what is 20? Well, that's going to be times 4 and times 4. Then I got to rewrite these. That's 12 over 20, and that's 5 over 20. Now they have the same denominator. 12 plus 5 is 17 over 20. 5 plus 1 is 6. Now 17 over 20. 17 is a prime number. Only 17 goes into that, and 20 certainly is not divisible by that. So that would be my final answer here. This next one here, 4 3/10 plus 3 4/5. Now this common denominator is much better because 5 goes into 10. So really 10 is my lowest common denominator. Now I could have picked 50 and multiplied everything up there, but it just adds too much work to it. Let's always go for the lowest common denominator. So here I got to multiply by 2. I don't have to write this, but some people feel comforted with that because I'm really multiplying each of those by 1. That's 8. 3 times 1 is 3. So I added up. 3 plus 8 is 11 over 10. 4 plus 3 is 7. Now, I cannot reduce 11 and 10 don't have any common factors, but 11 is bigger than 10, and that's an improper fraction, so I got to change this to a mixed number. So how many times does 10 go into 11? Now it only goes in once, there's 1 left over. So really 11/10 is 1 and 1/10. So, but I got to combine my two whole numbers, 7 plus 1, so the end answer here is 8 and 1/10. Okay, so that's really adding of the fractions. Go to the next page. Now here we're going to do a couple subtracting problems. Sometimes we have to do some weird borrowing and subtractions, and that's what makes these difficult. But again, I want to write it vertically. Common denominator, 5 and 3, that's going to be 15. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this one by 5, and then this one by 3. So 3 times 3 is 9, 1 times 3 is 5. Now I can do 9 minus 5, so that's not a problem. So that's 4 over 15. 5 minus 1 is 4. 4 and 15 have no common factors, so that would be my answer. Now clearly these next two will have a little more issues on it. 15 and 1/6, and minus 8 and 3/4. Now, what is the common denominator here? Well, 4 and 6, if we look on the multiplication chart or breaking prime factorization, you're going to find that is going to be 12. And so now with this, 4 times 3, 3 times 3, 6 times 2 times 2. That's going to be a 2. 3 times 3 is 9. And so you can see my first problem, 2 minus 9 does not work. I can't do that. So what I have to do is I have to borrow. And so I have to borrow from the 15 here. So instead of 15, I'm going to borrow 1 and make that a 14 there. But what I'm going to do is I'm really borrowing a big old 1 here. So the 15 turns into a 14, and then it's 1 and 2/12. Now, 1 and 2/12, we got to change to improper. 12 times 1 is 12. 12 plus 2 is 14. So this is really now 14 over 12. And then the whole number here is 14. So I'll draw a little line separating. Now, the 9/12, this just has to be rewritten again. 8 and 9/12. And now I subtract. 14 minus 9 is 5. 14 minus 8 is 6. So my answer is 6 and 5/12. So now this next one, 6 minus 2 3/4. Now the first one doesn't have a fraction. And so usually they both have fractions here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this easy for myself. I'm going to make it 0 over 4. I put 0 over anything. It's always the same. But I can't do 0 minus 3. So now what I got to do is I'm going to borrow from the 6, make that a 5. And then it's really 1 and 0/4. But 1 and 0/4, 4 times 1 is 4, plus 0 is 4. It's really 4/4, isn't it? So if I look at this now, I can do 4/4 minus 3/4. If you notice, I'm getting a little lazier not rewriting it out, but you should be able to handle this. 5 minus 2 is 3. And so there we go. There's my 3 and 1/4 as I subtract it. Now the book, they will never show this 1 right here. So they never show that step of borrowing it. What they'll do is they'll instantly just write 5 and 4/4, which is really what we have here, isn't it? Okay, but I think it's a better explanation this way. Okay, so adding and subtracting I always do vertically. Multiplying and dividing I still do horizontally. So now, we multiplying and dividing, we always must change them to fraction notation first, and then multiply. And then we're going to convert the answer to a mixed number if appropriate. So I mean, if we don't have an improper fraction, then we can't change it to a mixed number. So our first one here, 4/7 times 2/5. Okay, well, not 4, 3 4/7 times 2/5. So we gotta change this mixed number. So I gotta do 7 times 3 plus 4. 7 times 3 is 21. 21 plus 4 is 25. So it's 25/7 times 2/5. Now remember, multiplication we can reduce if possible first. Now 25 and 5 are both divisible by 5, so I'm going to reduce that. Now 2 and 7 have no common factors. So if I rewrite this now, it's 5/7 times 2/1. 5 times 2 is 10. 7 times 1 is 7. Now this is an improper fraction. The number is bigger on the top, so I have to do my long division. Now this is a very easy one, because it only goes in once. And so we get 1 3/7. Okay. Now this next one, we have to do 2 conversions. I'll do this purple to change it. 7 times 2 plus 2. 7 times 2 is 14. 14 plus 2 is 16. So it's 16/7. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 plus 1 is 19. So it would be 19/6. Now, we got to look to see if we do. 7 and 19 have nothing in common. These are both divisible by 2, so I really should divide each of these by 2 first to make it nicer. So then we get 8/7 times 19/3. 7 times 3 is 21 on the bottom. Now 8 times 19 is on the chart, and I get 152. The number's bigger on the top, so I do have to do long division. Ugh. Now, I just look on the chart. This is a nice one. How many times is 21 going to 150 without going over? I can get over to 147, which happens to be 7, and then I subtract 5, so I get 7 and 5 21st. And our last one, our last multiplication one, 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 3 is 19. So that's really 19/4. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. It's 5/3. Fortunately, 4 and 5 have nothing, no common denominators, or common factors to reduce. So I just kind of multiply. So I get 12. I get 95/12. So now I got to do long division. 12 into 95 can go 7 times. If I go on my chart, 84. So I get 7 and 11/12 is my answer. Like I said, sometimes these numbers get ugly, but again, use your multiplication chart. And the last part of this first video is I'm going to be doing the long division of the mixed numbers. And then I will finish up the 1C in a separate video. But yeah, the first thing I must do is change them to improper fractions. So 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. So that's 9/2. 8 times 3 is 24. 24 plus 3 is 27. So it's 27/8. Now please note, I never ever combine these first two steps. Because when we're dividing by fractions, when dividing we have to flip. Correct? We got to multiply by the reciprocal. But I change them to improper first, then I take another step to flip them. People try to do this in one step, and it can be done, but most of the time I see disasters. So now here, 2 and 8, well, these are both divisible by 2, and these are both divisible by 9. So this is a great one for reducing. So I have 1/1 times 4/3. Wow, that worked out great. Now, the 4 is bigger, so it's improper, so I got to do 3 into 4. Now, that's again, this is a nice one, only goes in once, so 1 1/3. A super nice one. This next one, 7 times 1 is 7, 7 plus 3 is 10, so I do 10 over 7. So again, I'm going to be doing the converting first. 4 times 6 is 24, 24 plus 1 is 25, so I have 25 over 4. And so now I have to flip the second one. And so 4 and 7, there's nothing to reduce, but these are both divisible by 5. So I get 2 over 7 times 4 over 5. Again, the numbers always reduce if possible. 2 times 4 is 8. 7 times 5 is 35. Now, I don't have to do any converting because the smaller number's on top already. That is my answer. Okay. And the last one in the long divisions here. 9 times 10 is 90 plus 2, so that's 92 over 9. 3 times 2 is 6, 6 plus 1 is 7, so it's 7 over 3. And so what I gotta do is I gotta flip the second one. So now there is a little bit of good news here. I can divide each one of these by 3, which is helpful. So it's 92 over 3 times 1 over 7. So that's 92 over 21. Now again, this is improper, so I got to do the long division, 21 into 92. Go on the old chart, only goes in 4 times, and I got 84. Subtract, I get 4 and 8 over 21, and that's my answer. All right, so I try to go 15 minutes about this. This is about a 16-minute video, so this is the first part of Unit 1C for the MTT thing. And I will see you again at the second part.